You know the vibes. Welcome back to the Hoop Genius podcast brought to you by NBA 2K24. And welcome back to Mr. BJ Armstrong, joining myself, Momuzi, here on the show. Hope you had a safe flight yesterday, BJ. How's the West
Yeah,
Coast
it's
treating
all
you? Glad
good,
to be
all
out of
good,
the
all
Windy City.
yeah, all good, all good. What's going on, my friend?
Just a little NBA playoff action. We have our first team to reserve their spot in the Western Conference Finals. The Dallas
Oh,
Mavericks
wow.
won game 6 against the OKC Thunder, 117 to 116. Now, before we talk about this, BJ, did you
Hmm.
watch the boxing earlier tonight?
I did not.
The unified heavyweight champion of the world, Alexander Usyk, had one of the best fights I've seen in a very, very long time against Tyson
Oh,
Fury.
okay.
It was fantastic. I met up with the boys. We watched the boxing. It was a great night. But then I
Okay, who
said,
won that fight?
Usyk won on a split decision.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. He now holds every belt in the heavyweight division. But as soon as the boxing finished, I said to the boys, I got to run. I got to get home. The OKC game starts at 1 a.m. And there's a little bit of traffic and whatnot. So I ended up having to listen to the first quarter of this game on the radio. Now, BJ, I've never listened to the NBA on a radio before.
Really?
And I'm going to tell you about my experience. I was using the NBA app. So you don't get a neutral radio. You get either the OKC radio station or the Dallas radio
Hmm.
station, right?
Okay.
And I've really got to commend the Mavericks announcers on their radio call because they were very impartial. They said Shea has clearly been the best player in the series. They were saying positive things about the OKC players when they did stuff. The OKC radio announcer who does the play-by-play, I don't know who it is. They should be ashamed of themselves because that was the worst commentary I've ever heard on an NBA game. And I've heard some bad commentators. I quote, this is when I had to stop listening to the OKC feed. Luca, he made a bucket and he got fouled at the same time. And he says, man, it's disgusting to watch this guy play. He's a disgrace to the sport of basketball. And I just thought, how can you be this upset about a foul call? And so, yeah, whoever does the OKC radio stuff, you're rubbish. So I hope you're listening. Anyway, I got home at the end of the first quarter. But from what I heard on the radio, the Mavs were throwing a lot of turnovers early on in the game. And they ended the night with 17 turnovers. BJ, you're having a laugh. What are you laughing
Hmm.
about?
No, I'll tell you later. That was pretty funny though.
I'm just, look, listen. Here's my thing. Like, I understand people being biased and whatnot, but to call someone a disgrace to the sport of basketball, to call one of the best players in the sport a disgrace to the sport of basketball, when you are commentating for a team with some of the most egregious flopping in the NBA, I think it's highly hypocritical. But regardless, Dallas finished with 17 turnovers tonight, and you don't often see teams win when they have that many turnovers. OKC only had 8 of them.
You would
Uh,
know. You would
no,
know
I
that,
would
bro. You
know.
would
I
know
would.
that.
I would know. I still have PTSD from the Celtics run to the finals in 2022. Lou Dort started again really hot. He had 9 points early on to get OKC out to a lead. However, he had 5 fouls in this game. So there were stretches late in the third, early in the fourth where he had to be on the bench and he wasn't there to guard Luka Doncic. And Luka himself was in foul trouble a lot. He had his fourth foul towards the start of the fourth quarter, but managed to play without it. And then as the game wore on, the OKC got a little lead and they went on a 24 to 6 run to close out the second half. And a lot of people online were complaining that Jason Kidd didn't call a timeout during that run. But from the way I looked at it, is you're 2 minutes away from halftime. Why are you going to call a timeout when you got halftime in 2 minutes? And clearly what he did worked because in the third quarter, the Dallas Mavericks got back into the game. I think they forced the Thunder to go about 6 minutes without making a field goal. And then after that, the players lost their rhythm, and it was really only Shai Gilgeous-Alexander who was scoring the basketball for them. And then down the stretch, this one was an absolute thriller. If you're listening to this and you didn't watch it, I'd highly recommend going back and watching it. It was a tied game with 4 minutes left. PJ Washington had a very quiet evening tonight. He only finished with 9 points, but he came alive down the stretch. He got the offensive rebound off a free throw, relocated to the corner, hit a three. Then Luka pulled up, hit a two-pointer to take the lead. And then the crucial play of the game for the OKC Thunder, they were inbounding the basketball with 27 seconds left. And PJ Washington ran into a Lou Dort screen. They called it an away from the play foul, which means OKC got a free throw and the ball back. They were down 3 with 27 seconds left. That played out. Chet Holmgren threw down an alley-oop. They took a 1-point lead. And then Luka Doncic, you assume that Luka was going to take the game winner or Kyrie would take the game winner, but Luka made a great decision. He got into the paint. The defense collapsed. He hit PJ Washington in the corner for a corner three. He got fouled shooting that three-pointer, headed to the line to make 3 free throws. Well, he made the first two, missed the second one on purpose, and OKC didn't have time to tie the game. But in the process of all of that, the PJ Washington corner three that he was fouled on, OKC tried to review it to get the call overturned, but that was their final timeout, which meant after PJ Washington's free throws, they couldn't call a timeout to advance the ball, which potentially cost them the game and the series. PJ, what were your thoughts after watching this elimination game?
Well, it just goes to show you how you have to stay in the game. Since you're talking about, boxing, which is one of my favorite sports as well, you have to stay in the fight. And certainly things weren't going the Dallas Mavericks way early in this game, but they stayed in the fight. Give them credit for that. They stayed in the fight by just sticking to their plan. In particular, Kyrie Irving, I thought, came out in the second half and really was aggressive on both ends of the court offensively. When he's going, that seems to open things up for Luka. PJ Washington made some big shots there in the fourth quarter. And they just really got great contributions.
Derek Lively with 15 rebounds, 4 of them on the offensive glass, double-double with 12 points.
It's one of those games, and you talk about it, and you hear people talk about it, you just want to grind the game out. They didn't play particularly well. Certainly, OKC brought the fight to the game. Great job by them. However, they just hung around, and they stayed with it. They took the punch, got off the mat, dusted themselves off, and they just methodically went about their business. And lo and behold, by the end, they had a chance to win the game, and they made key shots. They made free throws. They did what they had to do to win this game. So congratulations to the Dallas Mavericks. This was a terrific win. This is one of those wins where you say you didn't play well, but you win the game. That says a lot about your team. So give those guys credit. I thought OKC had a fabulous season. I didn't know what to expect from this team, but for them to get a game 7 in the second round, was phenomenal for this organization. I think they have something to build on, some things that they can work on, adjust, add to their team. They have great depth. They have a lot of flexibility, what they can do with this roster. So you learn a lot. And what more can we say about Shai Alexander? I mean, he was simply amazing. You can argue that he was the best player in this series. And, for them to go, I'm sorry, game 6, right? This is game 6. Game 6, I said. For them to go in game 6, for them to get this far, I thought it was terrific. However, they should be a little disappointed, but overall, I thought they did a terrific job.
They're one timeout away from forcing a game 7.
Yes.
Also, a credit to the Dallas Mavericks here on the next man up mentality, because through the first 4 games of the series, PJ Washington was really cooking because they were leaving him wide open. And then they decided to start closing out on him harder. And then Derrick Jones Jr. in the previous game and in this game really stepped up. He had 22 points tonight. I was disappointed on the OKC front. Like they had a great series, had a great season. They're a young team. They got the number 1 seed. They took this to 6 games, could have easily been 7 games. All 5 of their starts tonight had double digits. Shai led them again with 36 points, 8 assists. But Chet Holmgren, and I think he's definitely going to take the lessons from this series away and get stronger in the offseason, because he finished tonight with just 3 rebounds. And I was disappointed that our friend Bismack did not get on the court in this series, because I felt like they could have really used him.
Well, let's just state the obvious, they could have utilized a bigger body. Rebounding and physicality, especially up front, was a major problem for this team. I thought that they could have made some adjustments to that. Maybe not play the majority of the game with a bigger front line, but they certainly could have used, more physical, stronger players to offset what was going on, especially up front. I mean, that was key. I mean, you never like to see multiple and 1 opportunities. And you saw that here in a critical game like this. I mean, and 1. Chet gave you the effort, but he's just not strong enough to do it. So I thought that was something they could have adjusted to. However, you and I aren't coaching, but it was very obvious that they were the Dallas Mavericks were the more physical team. They were the more aggressive team as far as driving the ball to the basket, and it really showed. So that's something that they're going to have to address if they're going to continue to improve and possibly get to the conference finals and even have aspiration to get to the NBA finals.
Kyrie Irving finished with 22 points, which isn't a huge game. However, the timely nature of his buckets were
Right.
absolutely amazing. There was one of the threes that he hit completely off balance. Shot clock's dying out. He's counting down the buzzer, and it just gets the shooter's bounce, and it
Right.
just hits. And you're just looking at it like, yeah, this is someone who's not fazed by the high pressure situations. They move forwards. For the OKC
Right.
Thunder, we'll talk about them in the off season, but here's the thing that we often say. We often say about teams that the window is never as big as you think it might be. However, I think out of all the teams in the NBA, OKC have the biggest window to compete because although Shea, who they say is the youngster, is the same age as Luka, the rest of the roster is still very young. They have a lot of time to put a team together that can be even better than this one. They've got a lot of picks. They're going to have a lot of salary space because the guys are on rookie contracts. So it's going to be interesting to see. But BJ, tonight, not one, but 2 game 7s.
Right.
We've got the New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden against the Indiana Pacers.
That's going to be, I think that's going to be a fascinating game because the storyline here is, it's very obvious. I mean, it's injuries, it's healthy bodies.
Well,
who's going to even be available to play? Do we even know that?
For you. OG Anunoby might be available to play. He's questionable now. He's going to go through warm-ups and see if he can play. Josh Hart is going to try and play. Credit to them giving it all to play in this game 7, but long term, given that OG is a free agent and Josh Hart's on the final year of his deal next year, or this year, it's a risk. But you love the commitment and the drive to go out and win this game 7.
Yeah, but I'm not concerned about. I'm really not concerned about these guys. These guys coming back, whether they play or not. Physically, where are they going to be?
Mm-hmm.
You need a massive effort, okay? And certainly for the New York Knicks, I mean, it's been the one, constant excellence or constant, play that they've had, which is from Jalen Brunson. So, okay, all right, so we know that's coming. But what are we really expecting from Hart? What are we going to expect from OG at this stage? What are we going to expect from, DiVincenzo? Hardenstein, I think, is a little banged up. What are we expecting here? Because it's going to take a massive effort. And, as I like to say, you're going to need an effort to come from someplace where we're not expecting. Okay, well, I'm not expecting much from Hart right now. I don't know where. I don't know. I'm sure he's going to give me everything he has. I have no doubt about that. But what can he really do? I mean, I don't. Did they ever say what his injury was?
Josh Hart?
Yes,
an abdominal
strain.
Okay. Sorry.
So he has an abdominal strain. OG. What we got here? A hamstring? What he's just going to bounce back and he's just going to bounce back and be ready to go for 40 plus minutes? I don't think so. Maybe, but I'm not banking on that. And and at some point here, I mean, Brunson has been terrific. Does he have another 40-point effort? Because he's got to go all 48.
Yeah.
He's got to go. So I'm not expecting these guys to be 100%. On the other hand, I really think the Pacers just have more able bodies that can participate in a game like this. And it's going to be tough. I'm not saying the Knicks aren't going to give you the effort. I just think the Pacers have a better than average chance to win this game. I mean, I'm going to just say the Pacers just because they're healthier. I mean, they have at least 10 guys. The Knicks have what, 3.5 going into this game. They have 3.5 able players.
But that's what we know because we know everyone in the playoffs is carrying an injury.
Yes, but the
Jalen Brunson's not 100% healthy. He's not even. I don't even think Jalen Brunson's 80% healthy.
That's what I'm saying. Here's what no one's talking about. Okay, this isn't a full 48-hour turnout.
Yeah, it's an early tip, 8:30 UK.
It's an early tip, so that's about what 3 o'clock here.
Yeah,
3:30. So when you factor that in,
to get from Indiana to New York, ready for the game. And if anything, it's harder for the Knicks players because they've got to come home, see their family, spend time with their family, spend time with their kids, spend time with their wives. Whereas the Pacers, they just come in, check into a hotel, get ready.
Yeah, well, I just think it's just rest and being able to play. So, but what we do know, Mo will have a lot of fun with the New York media. We do know that the Garden will be rocking. We know that there's a lot of pressure there in New York, and I think I think it's going to be a terrific game. And we got to see if the Pacers are ready for the challenge. I mean, the Pacers should win this game, no doubt about it. I think they have more depth. I'm not saying they have the better player. The best player in the series has been Brunson, but I'm going to pick the Pacers here in this final game, in the semifinals here.
Yep.
Face
The spot in the conference
your
finals.
Boston Celtics.
Yeah, I'm going to pick New York.
Okay.
I'm going to pick New
Mo,
York.
are you suiting up because they don't have enough? Do they have enough? Do they have enough
Yes.
players to even
Yes.
get a 5 on
I've
the
got the
court?
call. Coach Tibbs, I said I can give you a good 48 seconds before I'm out of breath. I got 2 possessions in me. And guess
Okay.
what? Guess what, BJ? In those 2 possessions, I'm getting 2 technicals.
Okay, perfect.
I'm going to say Halliburton, I'm going to take Siakam out of the game. If I'm
Okay,
going, they're coming with me.
I
Anyway.
appreciate that.
I'm going with the Knicks. I have no real reason for this
Great.
other than Jalen Brunson and Isaiah Hartenstein. Those 2, I think we're talking about a big game and a close game. I like, Isaiah Hartenstein has been amazing rebounding the basketball the way he's been playing. If he can continue to do that, Jalen Brunson, I believe this is his chance to really establish himself. Not that he's not already a star, but a Game 7 win in Madison Square Garden, that's cementing yourself in history. And, DiVincenzo. And I just think that the Knicks, because they've got players out or questionable, they're going to be fired up for it. There's a danger here for the Pacers to not really know how to plan for this game, because when you don't know who your opponent's actually going to have out there on the court, it's tough to plan a game plan for that.
I have no reason to root against the Knicks. There's nothing not to like about this Knicks team. I'm a fan of the Knicks. I want the Knicks to win. If you're saying who you want to win, it's the Knicks. However, I don't even know if they're healthy enough to even play in the next round. I mean, honestly, who's available right now for them?
Brunson, McBride, Hartenstein, DiVincenzo. Precious Chua. Alec, can I interest you in an Alec Burks Game 7?
This is what I'm saying. Like, I just don't even see how they can go out there and play in the next round. I really don't.
Here's something I want to do. Do you remember one of our favorite Game 7s, the Grant Williams game, where he scored 27 points to knock out Giannis and the Bucks, the defending champions? Which random role player, if you had to predict one random role player from either of these teams to be the guy who runs away with the headlines, which random role player would you predict for this matchup?
I don't know if he's random now, but this kid, Nembhard, this kid, he's very capable. Obi Toppin, capable. But what's the little point guard
Obi Toppin. I think TJ McConnell.
TJ McConnell.
That would be my pick. TJ McConnell.
Miles Turner, capable. Siakam, he's a star, but
we can't call Siakam the role player though.
Well, no, I'm not saying he's a role player, but it's not like he's had like one of those games.
Yeah, very true.
You know what I mean?
Like the first
he hasn't
round.
he hasn't had like a 35-point game or anything. I mean, he's been solid, but he hasn't had a game. He's due for a game. Halliburton's had a game. Miles Turner, big dunks, big plays, but Siakam hasn't had a game yet. He's due for a game.
Meanwhile, everyone on the Knicks has kind of had games where they've overperformed.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
So
he's due for a game.
Speaking of that, if I had to pick a random role player for the next game, the Timberwolves and the Nuggets, I think the random role player would have to be Jamal Murray.
Jamal Murray, without question, Jamal is always a player that I've considered. On most teams, he would probably be 1, but he's 1A on this team. But clearly, the second best player in this series, has been Aaron Gordon. There's no
third best player.
Well, he's in this series. He's been the second.
No, you got Jokic and Ant-Man, and then you got.
Well, yeah. What you're saying in the
on
series.
the Nuggets.
Okay. On the Nuggets, he's been the second best. He's been the second best player for sure. And Jamal Murray is due. And they've done a great job of keeping him in check. I mean, give the Denver Nuggets credit for keeping him in check. Is he ready for a breakout game? Absolutely. But sometimes when you have a bad matchup, and I think this might be a bad matchup for him, and I'm not making any excuses for him, but we know he came into this series, he wasn't full 100%. And he doesn't look to have that same little burst of speed and energy, quickness that he normally plays with. And I'm not making any excuses for him, but everyone's banged up, like you just said. And I think that has something to do with it. But give him credit. He showed up. Here we are, game 7. And without question, he's going to give you a great effort. Now, I'm a little nervous for our Denver Nuggets, right? I'm nervous. I'm nervous because when the Minnesota Timberwolves, when they win, it's convincing. It's
They
not
win
like
big.
a win.
They win big.
The 3 games they've won this series, you would think that they just swept the series.
106 to 99, 106 to 80, and 115 to 70.
They won by 45 points in a must game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They've won 3 games where you're saying, wow, this is a really, really good team. It's like they play at extremes, right? They lose really bad and they win really, really good, right? And it's going to be fascinating to see. Now, I don't know who's going to show up. I don't know.
I know Anthony Edwards is going to show up.
Yeah. Oh, well, we know Ant-Man. Ant-Man has already said he's going for 7 championships. You got to love this kid.
This is a bit of a revenge game because Mike Conley and Rudy Gobert lost the game 7 to the Nuggets in a bubble when they were up 3-1. And the Nuggets came back to become the second team ever to come back from 3-1 down twice.
So, yeah. It's going to be.
So they've got the experience on their side.
Yeah.
Speaking about the Nuggets.
You know who I'm counting on this game? Naz Reid. I'm counting on Naz. Naz is, for the last 2 or 3 games, Naz has been a little quiet. I'm expecting him to come out, play, match the effort, and give one of those efforts. We know they're going to focus in on Ant-Man. I'm sure they're going to do something to take the ball out of his hand. I'm sure they're going to, Cat, he can give me 14 to 20 points. Rudy's going to do what Rudy's going to do. Conley's going to do his thing, but they need someone to come out, whether that's McDaniels or Naz Reid, to really give an effort to say, hey, we're here. And I think it's important for the team to get up in double digits early in the game to give them the confidence to know and let the other team know that they've got to play from behind.
Yeah.
Let the Denver Nuggets. So if the game is one of those games where it just stays close throughout the game, I think if it stays close, Denver. But if they get up by double digits, then I think they have a real chance. So that's one thing I'm going to be looking for.
Well, Mike Conley's 0-4 in game 7s. But what was really interesting was a reporter asked Anthony Edwards, he's like, do you want to win this game for Mike? Because he hasn't won a game 7 ever. And Anthony Edwards said, that's got nothing to do with me. I wasn't around for those ones. I'm trying to win this game for me.
That's pretty funny.
But so here's my thing. Like in the last game, the Denver Nuggets lost really badly. But there was an element of they had some really good looks. Like they were generating some really good looks and they were just bricking every single time down. If they got those exact same looks in another game, they would have probably won that game. But if you don't do it, you don't do it. That's what the playoffs are about. Who have you got though? Who's your pick for game 7 if you had to pick?
I'm going to stay on course and what I always say in a game 7. But I just went away from that with
you got to be consistent now, BJ. You got to be consistent now.
I know. Well, if I'm going to be consistent, I'm just going to go on the road. I'm going to go on the road. I'm rooting for the Minnesota Timberwolves. I really am, and not that I have a reason to. I think the Denver Nuggets. But if you're asking me, just my gut says the Denver Nuggets. But I'm just letting you know in secret that I'm really rooting for the Minnesota Timberwolves, but I think Denver is going to win though.
I'm rooting for the Nuggets because that's been my prediction all year long.
Yes, it has.
And I also think if the Timberwolves win this, they'll win the whole thing. And I would like to see. I
don't know. I don't know if they win the whole thing. I'm gonna tell you why. this Mavericks team has caught my attention. When you start winning and you don't play well, you catch my attention. You catch my attention. This Mavericks team, I'm not sure. And it doesn't matter whether it's Denver or Minnesota. I think they have such phenomenal guard play that I think they can, they're very capable of beating any team in the East for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they're capable. I think they're capable of winning and beating either one of those teams.
That's interesting. That's interesting. I think the Timberwolves could win this one tonight.
I do too.
I just think that
really do.
the refs are gonna like tonight, the game 6, the OKC Dallas, the refs will blow the whistle so much. But I think in the game 7, the refs aren't gonna blow the whistle that much. I think that really favors the defense of the Timberwolves. If they can play that suffocating defense, then the Nuggets could be in some real trouble. But having said
think about
that,
this. Think what we're saying, Walt. Think about this. You're gonna lose 3 games defending champions at home in a series. I mean, I can't even believe I'm saying that. I just want Minnesota to win because it's going to be devastating.
I don't even want Minnesota to win. I just want Anthony Edwards to win.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to.
I like Nikhil Alexander-Walker. I like Jaden McDaniels.
But I'm going to give it. But I'm going to stay. I'm going to stay with Jokic. I'm going to stay with Denver. They're going to win. There's no way. I don't think they can lose 3 games.
Well, this is what I was about to say. Jokic is the best player in the world.
Yes.
And, he pretends to have this bravado that he's not really bothered and da-da-da. But his reaction to losing the last game, I think he's going to have a point to prove tonight.
Yes.
That's only one way to find out. And we're going to be here to break it down for you after the game. So make sure you subscribe to the Hoop Genius podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcast from. I can't wait. 2 game 7s in one night. It's gonna go off. It's gonna be crazy. I'm so excited. I actually cannot wait. BJ, enjoy your time out there on the West Coast, and I'll see you tomorrow, my friend.
All right, take care, my man, and hey, we'll find out who's gonna win these games. So
yes, we're going to find out who my Celtics are playing. We're going to find out who the Mavericks play.
They're going to be good. If it was 3-on-3, for sure I got the Knicks. That's the only reason I'm saying Indiana.
All right. Well, only time's going to tell. In a game 7, it's impossible to predict, but we'll find out. So until tomorrow, my good people, appreciate you rocking with us. We're looking forward to breaking these down tomorrow. Make sure you get buckets.